This video will cover the top 5 challenges that I've identified while beginning to learn the HackPacks, particularly if you are new to the HackPack and electronics and coding. It can be quite challenging and intimidating, and we don't want you to stop. We don't want you to give up and just throw it away. We want you to be able to overcome those challenges. And a few of these challenges are pretty simple and yet can really hold people back because they don't know what they don't know. The first challenge isn't a technical challenge, it's actually a mental challenge, and that is just simply asking for help. When you're stuck and it doesn't work, the last thing we want you to do is call it quits because you don't know how to figure it out on your own. There is a huge HackPack community that wants to support you. They are non-judgmental and want to help you through with whatever problem you are having. You don't know what you don't know, and it's not your fault. That's part of this learning journey. So don't feel intimidated or embarrassed by the fact that you can't figure it out. One of the key things though when asking for help is it really helps to have a picture or a video of what problem you are having. So if there's a mechanical aspect that's not working right, if you can send us a video, we can look at it and understand why it might not be working and have some insight to give you to help troubleshoot and solve the problem. Since we don't know what skill level you are, we may ask some very simple, basic questions such as, is the power on? When you're new, you can get overwhelmed and intimidated, and something very simple can cause problems that you just don't think about. So don't take any of those questions as a way of us trying to say anything bad about you. We're just trying to make sure we cover all of the foundations, all of the basics, starting from a very simple concept. The second challenge that can go along with asking for help is just not knowing the lingo, not knowing the terms. So through the rest of this, learn some of the terms that are common for how we communicate, so that way when you're asking for help, it's not just saying, well, this thing isn't connected to that thing and it's not doing this type of motion. Simple basic communication like that is very difficult to troubleshoot when we don't understand what you're talking about. By using the specific terms that are common, it will help us make sure that we're on the same page with how to troubleshoot. The third challenge, and getting now into the more technical aspect, is the hardware connections. So anything that is in electronics or the mechanical build itself is considered a hardware connection. And any of those type of problems, there can be numerous type of problems, and that's where troubleshooting it can get a little bit more complicated, but there are some basics things that we can cover, kind of check off the list right from the get-go to make sure those aren't the key simple problems that we can fix relatively easy. The first one is the battery. Do the batteries have a charge? The one that actually works on the IR turret itself is a rechargeable battery pack. Now you could press the button on the side and you could see how much charge is on there. It's one of the nice things about the HackPack is you have this nice rechargeable battery throughout the whole life of this build. The IR turret, the first HackPack, does have a battery in the IR remote that does on occasion die and cause some problems. Obviously, it's not sending a signal, you won't get communication, and it's pretty easy to fix that with just replacing the battery. It is a different style of battery that you may not have around the house, but you can swap that out. A quick fix to also do that is you can watch my video to actually use a different IR remote to control your IR turret. Once we know that the batteries are good, another common place that has problems is the connection between the Arduino microcontroller and the breadboard itself. Now you have to make sure that is seated all the way in. I actually missed this the first time. Once I actually pressed the Arduino all the way down, then it's working. Now you need to understand there's a big difference between what the Arduino microcontroller is and the breadboard. So when we are talking about the Arduino microcontroller, it's not the combination of the two, they're the two separate components. That comes to play particularly when you're beginning to upload code to your microcontroller. Make sure you are plugging that USB into the microcontroller silver port and not into the black breadboard port. When you have the Arduino properly seated in the breadboard, then all the jumper wires should work quite well. The jumper wires are just the simple wires that allow you to connect from the breadboard to any other hardware component, so that way you can transmit whether it's the signal or the power to allow them to work. Understanding the pins on the Arduino microcontroller will be important when you are developing your skills later on for further hacking. The simple aspect is certain pins, certain outputs and inputs allow you to do certain types of things. For the initial ones, you know exactly which ones to plug into based off of what directions you have. Now, you just need to make sure that those are working properly. And so as we will talk to you, we may give you a pin number, whether it's a D12 or a A01. You can see that on the microcontroller itself to make sure you're plugging into the right one. The fourth challenge that you'll start facing is getting it connected to the IDE. This is beginning the software side of things, but when you're doing the initial build, and once you first log into the IDE.CrunchLabs with the IR turret, it will walk you through how to download the Arduino Create agent and make sure you follow that all the way. There's a separate video that you can watch to make sure you get that dialed in. The key thing is, particularly for Windows users, is once you download that Arduino Create agent, you have to go into your search bar, is the easiest way to do it, and actually run as administrator. So you right click on it, or just on the side of it, you'll see run as administrator. To make sure it's working properly, on the Windows, you'll see it in the bottom right-hand corner where there's a little arrow key to see what task manager is happening. You should see the HackPack logo in there. If you don't see it there, then you won't be able to connect your microcontroller to your computer. That's the first thing you always need to check to make sure that is running properly, so that way you can upload code and interact with the serial monitor while you're connected to your robot. Little note, anytime that you restart your computer, you will have to rerun as administrator for the Arduino Create agent. It's not a permanent thing. For whatever reason, it resets and now you have to reset it. Another thing is you cannot run both the Arduino IDE and the CrunchLabs IDE simultaneously. They will kind of compete with each other, with the Arduino IDE overriding the CrunchLabs IDE. Now, I keep saying the word IDE, so to make sure you understand what I'm talking about, is that is the software used to code more effectively. It's kind of funny because it's a software to write software. And IDE stands for Integrated Development Environment. Now, CrunchLabs has their own that you could use online, but that you can also download the Arduino IDE for bigger projects later on. The fifth challenge that you can easily face as a beginner is when you're trying to do your first hack. If you're new to code, if you're new to electronics, it'll be very easy for it to not work. And that's common. Even someone with experience, it won't work oftentimes the first time. So don't let that discourage you. It is a learning process. It will take some time to figure it out. And even as you're figuring it out and have experience, it still won't work the first time. One of the things you learn is that troubleshooting is almost a more important skill than writing code, because you always are troubleshooting. There's always problems that doesn't work the way you expect. And then you just learn and develop and continue to improve upon your skill. Once you get to that phase of doing your first hack, if you're new to code or anything else like that, use the Discord forum, find a post of someone who has a hack that you find interesting, pull their code if they have it available, and start learning how they did it. Start diving into the different components of it, so that way you can start creating your own hack. Now, I also have some other videos that you could check out that actually walk through how I built my hack. There's one that actually goes into how to code and some concepts of code, so that way you can learn all the basics, the components of code, and be able to write your own. I do a first hack that's a rejection hack that when you press a button, it turns a prank on, and then your friends can't use it. you can use that as your first hack. Take that code, write your own, make a modification to it. Just do something that you're learning, that you're engaging with the HackPack. Because honestly, this is where the HackPacks get fun, is when you make them your own. It's not just taking something that was given to you, you add your own code, you add your own hardware, and then come up with something creative. It doesn't have to be huge, elaborate, but something that you've done. You've learned from it, and then take the next level, challenge yourself a bit more, and add something cool. And once you've done a hack, make sure you share it on the Discord forum. We love seeing new hacks and understanding how you did it, and then continuing to help you improve your skill by maybe showing you something that you didn't think of or didn't know, to be able to add something later on and get the most out of it. That's really what we want from this channel and from the HackPack community, for you to be able to succeed as an engineer and learn and develop your skills as best as possible.